Hello South Asians and welcome to another edition of The Week Gone By. I'm Sanam and we shall have a look at what made news in South Asia the past week. We will begin this edition by continuing with our last week's top story, which was keeping aside all speculations Lalit Modi was suspended by BCCI as chairman and commissioner of the Indian Premier League. Now, the Governing Council of the IPL met on last Monday in Mumbai to discuss the 22 charges of impropriety that were served via email to Modi after the Chennai Super Kings won the IPL 3. Modi stands accused in a 34-page notice of allegedly consistent venality, including accepting a multi-million-dollar kickback while assigning the telecast rights of IPL matches and attempting to rig the bids for the two new IPL teams that were auctioned just last month. By suspending Modi on Monday night, the BCCI ensured that he would not be able to attend the board's upcoming meeting.
Still, as leader of the team, I reassure you that if there is any flouting of the rules and regulation or any other irregularity, I shall take full responsibility.
Canadian Tamils are protesting against Amitabh Bachchan ahead of the superstar's visit to Sri Lanka in the month of July. Amitabh Bachchan is supposed to be the chief guest at the India International Films Awards function in Sri Lanka. Just last week, he wrote in his blog that a group of Tamil protesters picketed his house, demanding him not to conduct the award ceremony in the neighboring country. Some protesters also marched from his Pratiksha bungalow to his Chalsa residence in Mumbai. Canadian Tamil Congress on Sunday said that they were saddened and disturbed with the decision of Amitabh Bachchan to take part in the ceremony organized by a regime which is alleged to have perpetrated crimes and human rights violations against Tamils. Now, Bachchan recently visited Colombo to announce the decision to host the IIFA show. In Nepal, the 10 major parties forming the coalition of the Nepal government last week met at Prime Minister's residence and discussed the current political scenario and threat from the Maoists. Now, during the meeting, the 10 parties is also known to have accused the UCP and Maoists to have seriously breached the Comprehensive Peace Accord and invited this confrontational situation. The coalition parties called upon the Maoists to call off their protest programs and urged the government to take all steps necessary to maintain peace and stability in the country. It was also decided that the coalition was not ready to replace Prime Minister Madhav Kumar Nepal-led cabinet unless the Maoists fulfill their conditions, which include the return of property seized by them during the insurgency and dismantling of the paramilitary structures of the youth wing called the YCL. The Indian Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh on last Monday held talks with Afghan President Hamid Karzai and cautioned him against a plan to integrate the Taliban opposed to the emergence of a strong, independent and pluralistic Afghanistan. Now, Manmohan Singh met Karzai at his residence and discussed a host of issues impinging directly on peace and stability in Afghanistan. Backing an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned rebuilding of Afghanistan, Manmohan Singh underlined India's unwavering commitment to continuing reconstruction works in that country and said that repeated attacks on Indians would not deter it from carrying out with this process.
India remains committed to assisting the government and people of Afghanistan in their efforts towards the reconstruction and development of their country. I conveyed to the President that India is ready to augment its assistance for capacity building and for skill and human resources development to help strengthen public institutions in Afghanistan. President Karzai assured me that the government of Afghanistan will take all possible measures for the security of Indians in Afghanistan.
It was a hectic day in the Indian Parliament last Monday. Opposition parties repeatedly interrupted proceedings over a news report that the government had been secretly tapping telephones of key political leaders since the year 2006. The report claimed that the phones were tapped by the National Technical Research Organization, which is an intelligence unit under the Home Affairs Ministry. Those whose phones were allegedly tampered with included the General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, Prakash Karat, and the Chief Minister of the Eastern State of Bihar, Nitish Kumar. The opposition members were not satisfied with Home Minister P. Chidambaram's statement rubbishing the charge that it had authorized any telephone tapping of politicians and alleged that the issue smacked of the 1975 emergency days. The International Monetary Fund believes that South Asia's prospects for a regional grouping have greatly improved and that prospects for a deeper economic integration within the region and with the rest of Asia would continue to improve in the future. Positive news for a region that by and large is poor and poverty-stricken, where political consideration took precedence over anything else. Well, Asia is leading the global recovery and rebounded much faster than more advanced economies in the world, where unemployment is higher, household balance sheets are impaired, and bank credit remains anemic. That is believed by the director and deputy directors of the Asia and Pacific Department of the IMF. He was speaking at a press conference in Washington, D.C. on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank annual sessions. Asia's economy is expected to grow by about 7% in the year 2010 and 2011, while China and India are expected to record economic growth rates of 10% and 8.8% respectively. In Bangladesh, a special BDR court in Dhaka has set November 1st to frame charges against soldiers of 44 Rifles Battalion accused of mutiny. Outgoing Bangladesh Rifles Director, Major General Mainul Islam, who heads the panel of judges, adjourned the court until then, after proceedings began at 10:45 a.m. at the Darbar Hall of the Border Forces Pilkhana headquarters on Tuesday. The 675 accused were present in the court. The court ordered the accused to provide list of witnesses and get their statements by this period. It also asked the accused to appear before the court with the same appearance that they had during the mutiny. A Karkarduma court on last Tuesday let off former Minister and Congress leader Jagdish Tytler in connection with the 1984 anti-Sikh riots case after accepting the closure report submitted by the Central Bureau of Investigation or CBI that gave a clean chit to him. Additional Chief Metropolitan Magistrate Rakesh Pandit said, and I quote, "There is no sufficient material to send Tytler to trial." Giving a clean chit to Tytler, the court further said that there was no ground to order further investigation in this case. The CBI had submitted that there was nothing to proceed against 66-year-old Tytler as two witnesses, Jasbir Singh and Surendra Singh, were not reliable and their statements were false and concocted.
बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, मगर अफसोस है कि मेरी जिंदगी का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा खत्म कर दिया झूठ ने। मैं तो शुरू से कहा था कि मैं तो बहुत सारे चैनल्स में भी कहा था कि ये सब झूठ है, फ्रेम करा जा रहा है, और आज मुझे खुशी है कि सच्चाई सामने आ गई है।
In another incident, according to police and the Foreign Ministry, a female diplomat working in the Indian Embassy in Islamabad has been arrested on charges of spying for Pakistan. A senior police source said that the 53-year-old woman, a second secretary in the embassy in Islamabad, had been under surveillance for 6 months before police swooped. Mrs. Gupta was arrested from her home in East Delhi after she was called back for consultations, the police officer said, on condition that he not be named. Meanwhile, the Press Trust of India news agency said that she was summoned to New Delhi on the pretext of discussions on SAARC summit, which began on Wednesday. She had worked in the mission for nearly 3 years and is alleged to have passed on information from the Islamabad head of India's External Intelligence Service, Research and Analysis Wing to her Pakistani contacts. And also, according to a senior intelligence official, Pakistani Taliban chief Hakimullah Mahsood is now believed to have survived a US missile strike earlier this year, but has lost clout within the militant network. The revelation contradicts initial confidence among United States and Pakistani intelligence officials that the militant leader had been killed in the mid-January missile attack. The Taliban consistently denied Mahsood was killed, but declined to offer evidence that he was alive, saying that it would compromise his safety. The ready-made garment workers and police on Thursday, for the third consecutive day, engaged in sporadic clashes in the capital's Mirpur area. a day after the government assured that a new pay scale would be introduced for them in just 3 months. 5 people were injured as police charged batons on the agitating workers during the chase and counter-chase that turned the Mirpur 13 and 14 sectors into quite a battlefield. The workers also vandalized the glasses of 8 to 10 factories, prompting the authorities to shut down their production. The demonstration program that started at about 10 a.m. was withdrawn at about 1 p.m. after getting an assurance from the local MP Kamal Ahmed Majumdar that he would hold a meeting with the garment owners and workers at Hazi Ali Field in Section 13 at 4 p.m. to settle this ongoing crisis. In Nepal, the May Day mass demonstration of the main opposition party, UCP and Maoist, passed off peacefully in Kathmandu on Saturday. Tens of thousands of Maoist activists and supporters rallied the streets of the capital, hoisting their party flags from 18 different places before converging into a mass assembly at Khula Manch. Senior Maoist leaders, including the party chairman Pushpa Kamal Dahal or Prachanda, addressed this much-anticipated mass assembly organized on the occasion of the 121st May Day. On the occasion, Maoist chieftain Prachanda claimed that the party's nationwide urban-centric general strike starting Sunday will be decisive. He, however, said that the party will be open to dialogue. Wearing red shirt and scarf and carrying the communist flags, Maoist supporters and cadres took part in the program despite the scorching heat. Demanding the resignation of Prime Minister Nepal and formation of a national unity government in their leadership, the Maoists have imposed a nationwide general strike starting from May 2nd. Well, these were some of the major stories of the past week, but the top story was, of course, the 16th SAARC summit, which was held in Bhutan. How South Asia stands after this important summit got over among its commitments and bilateral plans is what we had in our discussion with our guest in our analysis. We'll be back on this discussion right after a short break, so stay with us.